So this is Audacity 101, basically a free way to edit audio for your attraction, be it haunted attraction, seasonal, Christmas, whatever it may be. This is what I personally use, and when I was doing Haunt Tech Tips, the podcast, before I kind of switched everything over to YouTube, was using that to both record and edit the audio. It's really a surprisingly powerful program for something that's free and open source. So you'll see we're at audacityteam.org. That's where you can download the regular full version of Audacity. It it does look a little weird when you first go to it. I'll do a refresh here, and you'll see it's checking your browser, but it's just figuring out what version of the software it wants to deliver to you. So download Audacity, and you can see they have for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And just download whichever version you do need. The Windows version, the newest version, installs nice and easily. Back in the day, dating myself, you used to have to install a MP3 codec, which was the lame MP3 codec. Long story short, that wasn't open source, and they didn't have rights to install it on their own software. Looks like the copyright or whatever rights protection they had there has since expired. So now it's included in Audacity, but if you already have a version on your computer that for some reason cannot export MP3s, you just need to go to that lame.sourceforge.io and download that right here, and download section there. And again, it's freeware, so these websites, they might look a little hokey, but Audacity is very much legit software. Personally, I like to use a little bit of a modded version of it. Since it's open source, different programmers and users can make their own versions. I use Dark Audacity for haunters. I work at night, and just a little bit easier on the eyes. Plus, they simplify the menus. You can still have almost all the functionality of full-blown Audacity, but Dark Audacity just kind of streamlines everything for you. So I'll open up. Here is standard Audacity here. You have your recording options right here, your standard play, pause, record. You can change your inputs. Right now I'm just letting Microsoft handle it for me, but if you have a Bluetooth microphone, I use, try to get it on camera here, it's on a boom arm, a Yeti Blue, Blue Snowball microphone, same company that makes the Yeti. Really good sound from that microphone. I'm doing actual professional recording, and those come in at about $50 or $60. Have mine obviously custom painted for the season, but that's just how I like it. Also, you can change mono recording, stereo recording. A lot of haunt stuff, you might just be mono, depending on how far set up you have your attraction. And speakers, whatever your output is. And again, I'm just letting it use Microsoft's defaults for myself. Across the top here, you have your different tools, your selection tool, so you can select the audio that you want to edit and modify. You have your envelope tool, which lets you modify individual chunks of audio. Your draw tool. Also your magnifying glass, so you can zoom in and edit more closely. Time shift tool, so you can move things back and forth. And your multi-tool, which is a combination of your envelope tool and your draw tool. I'm going to switch over to Dark Audacity just to show you the difference, and it's not a huge difference. Down here you have your audio project rate, which that's just a recording sampling rate. A few different things that, unless you're an audio engineer, you probably don't need, which is why I honestly like Dark Audacity. It's just a little bit simpler. So you see a lot of the tool menus up here kind of disappear when you do that, but you can still get them back. I just go into View, Toolbars, and mostly everything is still here. But we will do an import. And tonight we're going to be using some audio from Audio Zombie Sound. Reached out to, oh, I'm a terrible person. I forgot his name. It's 0 by 1 Audio in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. They make a lot of awesome haunt and attraction audio, and my zoom is in the way of my toolbar here. There we go, Audio Zombie. They have all sorts of sound libraries, and I'm going to be pulling a couple things out of their everything bundle, which is pretty much everything they have on a Zombie thumb drive. It's a ton of audio, and they have some really good stuff. They record in studio, record their own stuff, so it's a nice original audio. So a little plug for them because they do make some wonderful stuff. So I'm just going to go over to see Clown Town of Terror here and grab a little, let's see, Circus Freaks Lament. That sounds fun. I'm going to drag that right into Audacity. Now this is going to pop up whenever you do import audio, and basically it's saying, do you want to edit the audio source or do you want to make a new copy of the file? So this way you're not going to destroy your original source. So I always make a copy of the file. I just left it up so I didn't have to somehow get to the message. You can tell it not to do that, but I just always let it copy the file. Click OK there. Takes a moment to process it. And it gives you a real nice waveform of the audio. You hit play here. I'm gonna have to turn down the volume on this a little bit, I do believe, because that was extremely loud on this end. And you have that incremental control. Now what gets really neat here is when you start to zoom in, the ability of Audacity to zoom in for editing. And again, we're looking at seconds here, so that's 1 second. And we're looking at 1 second is that space there, so half a second is every number. And you can really get in and start to edit to insane levels here. Switch over to a different tool here, and you'll see, I made a very poor selection there. Control Z, undoes everything wonderfully. Need to zoom in even further. There we go. Once you get all the way on the waveform, you can actually see the very individual moments of the audio, and you're going to be able to adjust those, basically increasing volume and decreasing volume. For the most part, for haunting, you're probably not going to need that, but if you have an audio recording of something that just sounds great and there happens to be a pop or a crack or some audio distortion in there, you can go in and find that and just take it right out, which is really neat. So you can have that huge incremental editing capability. Right click zooms out, left click zooms in. Now, unless you're really doing some heavy duty audio editing, you're probably not going to need to go in that far to do that sort of editing. However, start to go over our tools here. So this is your selection tool. So now that we've selected this piece of audio, you can go to your effects up here. And you have a ton of different effects. The ones that you're mostly going to use, possibly amplify if you have some really quiet audio that you just need to boost up a little bit, but you don't want to go too far because basically it's going to start clipping. And I'll give you a bad example of that. I'll allow the clipping. And this is going to sound, that's clipping. You do not want that. So we'll undo there. I'm going to go back to that again, go back to amplify, not allow clipping. And you see, it just won't let you do it. So it knows when the audio is going to clip, and it will only let you amplify the audio up until the clipping will begin, which I hate to say, it usually isn't too much. This is the good waveform, but you can tell it's basically halfway filling the meter here. If you have a very quiet recording, it might be a lot smaller and you can amplify it more. With this, you're only going to get a couple decibels of amplification before you start clipping. So yeah, definitely never allow the clipping unless that's the effect you're going for. If you want it to sound like a blown out speaker, well, you can do that, which is kind of neat with the flexibility they give you here. A lot of apps just wouldn't allow that, period. Go back to that same chunk of audio. You can change the pitch. So bring it up to a higher pitch here. So see what that did there? It kind of gives it a more of, I don't know, maybe a daycare feel, or almost makes you think of a couple of the 80s horror movies where the pitches of the audio is just a little bit higher. Do the opposite here. I'll bring the pitch down. Now what's really fun is to take some innocent, cute down. Now that nice downbeat, that definitely sounds like some haunt audio, doesn't it? And a really cool trick I've heard for some escape rooms that they'll use, they'll have a soundtrack, and per se it's a timed event within the escape room. You only have so much time in this room or for this puzzle. They'll trigger the audio, and then every 15 seconds or so, they'll speed it up. So the music just gets a little higher pitch, a little more intense, and really kind of gets to you. And you can slow it down too. Make it that blurred time effect. So a lot of neat things you can do with pitch there. Just gonna do that again. We'll go over here to the beginning. Another very common effect is your fade in. Per se, you're doing a nice mix, or you want the music to come in quietly as a scene begins or they enter a scene. Although the thing to keep an eye on is however long you have selected is however long the fade is for. So I just had that area selected so it faded the entire area. If I select the first minute and 30 seconds of this audio and do a fade in, it's going to gradually fade in that first minute and 30 seconds, which you're not going to hear anything probably the first 5 seconds. Hear a little something in the background maybe. So really cool way to introduce audio, especially if you push that over a couple minutes worth of time. So it's not so abrupt. Per se, you have a cue line area and you want to sneak in a thunderstorm track or something like that. Most of your pre-produced thunderstorm audio is going to be very loud. It's going to be very abrupt. This will you make it sound like it's coming in from a distance, and then you can go to the very end of the audio and use the same effect. Well, actually, not the same effect, but instead of fade in, fade out. And go here. Very gradually. And it's just so very clean. Again, just somewhat amazing for free software. Get into our time shift tool here. Now you see the timeline is staying in the same place. Let's just let you move your audio back and forth in the timeline. Per se, you want to inject something before that audio, which I'll grab. I'll see Mary go wrong. Oop, clicked instead of dragging. Mary go wrong went wrong. That's funny. Make a copy. And since that wasn't going to fit, it just threw it in a different section for me, which is a nice little feature. What I'm going to do instead, though, I'm just going to chop out the last piece of that. So I'm going to highlight that. You can either cut it or just hit delete. Now I'm going to grab that audio. Oh, it is not cooperating with me right now. copy it, go up here and just paste it right in. And then I use my standard shift, not the time shift. Just move that right over. That audio is rather loud, so I'm going to adjust that as a whole here. And with this tool, it's kind of neat. You can adjust not everything, but just the section that you want to. And this is your envelope tool. I'll put this audio back to full size. Now you see it's going to be a rather abrupt transition. So instead of doing it this way, where it just goes straight from one track to the other, I'm actually going to remove all of this from my timeline. And you'll notice it was playing both tracks at the same time. So I'm going to slide this over. Going to highlight the end of this. Do a nice little fade out. Highlight the beginning of this and do a nice little fade in. I think I'm going to squeeze them together a little more there. Not to mention, bring that gain down a little bit. Now it's going to be pretty clean. Here the first track fades out as the second track comes right in. Nice clean audio transition. And you can do, I've done projects over an hour long on here. You just go back and forth. You can add multiple tracks if you like. And you can just do all of your zooming in and out as you need. And you can really zoom out too. So there we are, 30 minutes, an hour, hour and a half. And this really comes down to your computer's RAM because all of this is being saved in your memory and it's accessing it from that. I do a lot of my editing on a machine with a solid state drive that keeps things moving fast as well. Zoom back in here. How about we throw in some special effects? So we will go grab some more things from Audio Zombie. They have some just cool special effects sounds as well. Huge library here. So big it actually takes a moment to load it. There we go. See, I'm going to add some big clown horn. I'm just going to slide that right over. And maybe add in some, let's see. What sounds fun? Oh yeah, there we go. Crying baby doll. That'll be good. I'm just going to toss that right up here. All right, so Crying Baby Doll's a rather long track. We'll just listen to what we have here as is. Decent little scare effect. And everything just layers, so you can layer all that you want right on top of each other. And you can also play with a little bit. Per se, you want to go to your clown horn. Hit some effects. Maybe you want to invert it. Now this should actually be pretty. Oh, actually I didn't process. Some of the effects do more or less than other things. Phaser is kind of a fun one. I just like, for haunt purposes, to kind of max things out. And we will apply that. Hear that kind of distortion effect there. You do that with some music and things get really interesting. So I'm going to hit that, hit phaser. Again, just go to the ridiculous level with it. Kind of has like a Killer Clowns from Outer Space feel to it. So just a lot of really cool effects you can play with here. Wah-wah is another neat one. If you're from the Northeast, you'll know what a Wah-wah store is. It's nothing like that, unfortunately. But run that here. Actually, that looks like it's already set pretty well. So again, kind of like an alien effect. One of my more favorite projects I did, it was using lullaby, like dollhouse music, and just slowed it down. See if I can find where that was. Oh. Music box, maybe? That's what it was, music box. There it is. So I'm just going to throw that way over here. I'm actually going to delete out a couple tracks here. Change up the audio a little bit. So here you go, very big music box noise. We've all heard that. So again, I'm going to change the tempo on this one. Bring it down a little bit. Now pitch just changes the tonality, the high or the low. Tempo actually stretches out the audio as well, which a little bit lower. Let's, again, haunt. So let's bring this out a little bit further. Go 40%. So you're starting to hear that. That's a little bit creepier, but that's not done yet. So brought out the tempo. Now let's hit the pitch as well and just bring it down a little bit. And also you can change the pitch without changing tempo. That's what this is doing. So we're just kind of doing it to the extreme now. And also I do recommend the high quality stretching. Uses a little bit more audio processing, a little bit more of your laptop's processing power, computer's processing power, but worth it. And you can tell that it's taking a moment, but it's resampling the audio and applying the filter. So let that run. One cool resource I didn't actually mention in the resources links, and I'll put it on the YouTube, is if you have a YouTube account, YouTube Audio Library has a ton of free ambient music. Some of it's great, some of it's meh, elevator music or infomercial music, but it's out there, and most of it doesn't require anything to use. So yeah, we'll hit play on this again. So probably actually took that a little bit too far. So I'm going to put the tempo back up a little bit. I'm not going to use high quality this time just to be faster, but. And that way you recognize the audio, but it just has that nice little distortion to it. That gives you that little bit of a creep factor. And again, play with things. Audio engineering isn't exact science, but for haunt purposes, play around, have fun with it. And there's just so many things you can do, especially if you do have a library like this going. let's make this extremely creepy. So we'll have our music box playing and a kid laughing coming into it. Let's move it over a little bit. Do a little bit of a fade in on the child's laughter. Pretty good, right? So one thing you'll notice, the child laugh track is rather short here. So instead of seeking out a longer child laugh track, let's zoom in a little bit. I'm going to highlight a piece. And I always like to try to highlight from the very lowest peaks for the beginning and ending. Control C to copy. Then I'm going to go over here and paste it. Oop, copy did not take. Like I was saying, Audacity surprisingly does use a fair bit of computer resources, so that plus Zoom. Yeah, my laptop's, the fan's running a little loud, so. Copying, making sure I copied it, and then pasting. Now, do something cool called splitting the track. Move that over a little bit. I'm going to copy the remainder of the track. So I'm just going to cut the remainder of the track and then paste it over here. Squeeze everything back together. And my short child laughing track is now much more drawn out. And this track was a little short because it's a pretty quick repetition, but you see where I'm going with that. You can definitely reuse, resample, stretch things out, and do a lot with a little bit. Audio recording on board is also quite decent. So per se, you have what you want together here. You've got your creepy music, you got your child laughing, you got what you want. Let's go up to File. Now, saving your project, what that's going to do is save basically the metadata of, okay, file A plays at 80% volume, file B plays and then is cut. It saves what you've done. So it's not the audio file, it is what you've done so far. If you do any video editing, it's a lot like that. So what we actually want to do here is go to File, Export. Personally, I'm an MP3 fan. MP3 audio is, it's good quality. It's not the best quality, but for an attraction, for something going over a loudspeaker, it's usually perfect. And now you're just going to pick where you want to put it. I'm going to say, actually had a folder specifically for this. There we go, Audacity class. I'm going to say music, box, child laugh. If I can type. Preset modes, I like to go way up and just record everything extreme. Or I'm sorry, insane. Takes more space, but again, it's an MP3 file. It's not that huge. And this is joint stereo, force export to mono. Doesn't make a huge difference. Basically, when you look at this, that's the left channel, that's the right channel. If you do joint stereo, you're putting out two audio channels, but it's all the same. You do stereo, it's actually your left channel, your right channel. And mono, it just makes everything one flat audio, which if you're using, per se, a lapping amplifier and just a couple speakers here and there to play the same thing, you might want to go mono. So I'll hit save here. Tracks will be mixed down, exported as one stereo file. Okay. And then this is where you can put in your metadata, which I'll go back to the Audio Zombie folder here. That's where all of this information comes from. So I like to put in, obviously, name of the track, title. I might put in the scene in the show it's going in, or even the year of the show, just a way to keep track of everything, especially if you do have a lot of custom audio. So I'm going to say HTT, Hot Tech Tips, audio album name, Playroom Scene, track number 1, 2020. And you don't have to fill this out, but it helps. And it looks like it's actually using the iTunes encoder for the MP3. That's kind of funny. And all right, we hit OK. And now it's just rendering the audio. Now this was a couple minutes worth of audio, so nothing crazy. But if you're doing an hour of audio, that might take 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on your computer. Go back to my folder here. And there you go. We've got the file. Add tags. Title, Kid Laugh. Album ID. Playroom Scene. And that's just a nice way to organize and keep everything together. So that is Audacity in a nutshell. You can put audio together, stack it, cut it, edit, use all your different effects. And you can tell there's so much more it can do. It can analyze the music. It can find silence. It can, and that's useful for podcasts or for audio dictation, things of that nature. So if you have that long pause, it actually just cuts it right out. So your audiobook might go from 8 hours down to 7.5 hours when you take out all the 5, 10-second pauses when you always took a drink of water or stop for a breath or whatnot. Macros you can build so it will automatically run a few different things for you. One effect I like to run, if I record anything myself, I like to normalize it. It takes out the peaks and valleys, helps with any pops or if you little microphone bumps, anything of that nature. Echo and distortion, they can sound neat. Compressor, again, also helps with taking out the peaks and the valleys. And you can also download additional effects and install them to the software. I'm going to switch gears here and go to another neat website, manual.audacityteam.org. It is basically a Wikipedia type page, and it is an instruction manual for the app. So per se, there is something very specific you want to do. They have all sorts of resources here on how to go about doing X, Y, and Z. Although personally, I find going to YouTube and typing in how do I blank in Audacity usually does a really good job there. And also, this is kind of cool, new features, because they're always adding stuff. That's the beauty of open source. Some developer has an issue, makes them really cool, and they can add it in, then they tell you all about it. And again, the software is just so ridiculously powerful. Most of this you probably never use unless you're an audio engineer, but it's a great way to put together stuff free for your haunt. I'm going to pull up YouTube audio library here. Let's see. YouTube. A lot of people don't know about this. It's where a lot of the creators get their music for their channels from. Mine has kind of figured out that I like dark and ambient and dramatic. It's kind of figured things out. So let's see what Phantom sounds like. So kind of cool. And you're free to use the song and monetize your video. So that is just free audio that is out there on the internet to use. Some of the audio is not exactly free. I'll do contribution required. So something like that, they want you, if you're using this for YouTube video or really anything, they want you to credit the artist for it, which again, no big deal. It's becoming kind of the norm in videos to see a little accreditation. Now, if it's an advertisement for your haunt, either go license something or buy some music from like Audio Zombie, where it's meant for haunts to use. But if it's just a home haunt video or something you're using in the background somewhere, you can definitely use the non-licensing requirement stuff. And also, there is a sound library here. Not the very best sound library, but zombie snarls, air tank wakes, and I don't think I've seen any of these actually require any licensing or attributions. And you can just download them right here. All you need is just a YouTube account, and stuff is all out there to use. Really, it's just YouTube trying to get around people using copyrighted music, so they're making it really easy to use license-free, royalty-free music, which pretty cool, gotta say. Kudos to YouTube on that one. And there's quite a bit of stuff here, as you can see. They've actually added more since the last time I looked at it. Let's see, chopping hollow tree. Not bad. So that is pretty much what I have for this evening. Audacity is pretty cool software. Again, I personally like Dark Audacity. There's nothing wrong with the original Audacity. I just, I'm a night shifter, so a darker screen is nice. A little less eye strain. You can also, a few other features here, change your balance from left to right. Of course, adjust your volume. Just kind of hide things, which is handy if you do get into multi-track audio. Looking for any other major things. And pretty straightforward. Any questions, feel free. Reach out on Facebook, Haunt Tech Tips. Email Chris at haunttips@gmail. Excuse me, Chris at haunttechtips.com. Our website currently is just pointing to a YouTube page, having a little tiff with Podbean about their billing system. Hopefully get that sorted out before too long and get our webpage back up. And also there is, in the help section, there's the Audacity manual, direct link to that page as well. So yeah, tons of powerful effects here, but really just being able to put your own audio in, or even record your own audio, record your own voiceovers. I've done that as well. Pretty much hook up your audio. Most of the time, it depends. If you're in a nice quiet room, have decent computer microphone, although preferably an external microphone, USB microphone, you can get some decent audio quality out of just a mic recording. Enough to at least put on a skeleton routine or, maybe a rules explainer for your haunt. Also, if you need to record audio for a video, you can record it in here, export MP3, and then throw it into your videos however you need. So this is what I use for my audio. I use another one, Shotcut, for my video. Plan to do a video on that same format within the next week or so. I honestly use Shotcut a little bit more than the audio side of things. But yeah, you'll see it pretty simple and very powerful, especially considering it's free. So I hope this helps. And check the comments down below on the YouTube video where this is being reposted for all the links to Audacity, Dark Audacity, the manual, Audio Zombie for their library, and YouTube for their library. So hope everyone stays safe out there, and talk to you soon.